You ever catch a whiff of something so foul it punches you right in the memory? Burning plastic mixed with melted dreams. Yeah, that stench doesn't just fade. It lingers like the bitter aftertaste of a divorce you swore you'd never relive. Except this time, it's the aftermath of a bonfire that used to be a luxury SUV, right in the middle of our perfect little neighborhood. That night, with the flames flickering orange and electrical wires popping like fireworks, I realized karma isn't some gentle nudge. No, sometimes the universe serves it up extra crispy with a side of public humiliation. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and 3 years ago, if you'd told me I'd be the star of my own low-budget thriller involving bolt cutters, legal loopholes, and a woman named Victoria Langford running the HOA like she was the empress of Willow Creek Estates, Arizona, I'd have laughed and told you to lay off the coffee. But here I am, boots in the ashes, the whole block watching as her empire crumbled in real time. Let's rewind to when I was just trying to hold it together after the divorce that left me emptier than my wallet on a Friday. My ex took the house, the dog, and most of the dignity. I got the kids, Mia and Tyler, who needed me to be the rock they could lean on. For a couple of years, life was ramen noodles, no frills, just survival mode. The goal that kept me going? A used Tesla Model Y. It wasn't about showing off. It was proof that I could still build something good for us. As an electrician with 20 years in the game, I do things right. No shortcuts, everything code compliant. When I finally rolled that car into my driveway in Willow Creek Estates, I installed the Level 2 charger like it was a life support system. Permits? Checked twice. Calculations? Triple checked. Conduit snapping into place felt like the first deep breath in years. The neighborhood looked like the American dream on the surface. Pristine lawns, identical beige houses, palm trees swaying in the Arizona breeze, kids riding bikes, weekend BBQs with the smell of burgers wafting over fences. Everyone smiled and waved, but underneath was a network of rules so tight it could choke you. The HOA was the real boss, enforcing everything from lawn height to flag colors with fines that could bankrupt a family. Victoria Langford had just taken over as president. She was a former real estate agent with a megawatt smile and the personality of a live wire, sharp, artificial, and ready to shock you if you stepped out of line. Her own divorce had left her bitter, her business struggling, and she needed somewhere to feel powerful. She strutted over the day after I finished the install, heels clicking on the concrete, her hybrid Audi gleaming in the sun. "Ethan, how fabulous to see eco-friendly choices in our community," she cooed, leaning on my Tesla like it was hers. "We all have to pitch in for the greater good, don't we? Maybe I could use that charger for emergencies. My schedule is so crazy." I kept it polite. "Appreciate the support, Victoria. But this is my private setup. Can't have everyone tapping in, liability and all." Her smile vanished like a popped balloon. "Oh, Ethan, don't be so selfish. The HOA has standards for aesthetics and community harmony. That thing looks like an eyesore. We'll need to discuss architectural approval." That metallic taste of impending fight hit me. I thought maybe she'd drop it. I was wrong. A week later, the letter arrived. Official HOA paper, heavy with threat. Unauthorized installation. $250 retroactive fee. Daily fines until removal. It could wipe me out in weeks. I hit the phones. Management company, no prior complaints. City, permits perfect. My lawyer friend Gavin. Arizona law protects this. Don't back down. At the next meeting, room smelling of cheap coffee and tension, Victoria tried to bulldoze me in front of 30 neighbors. "Ethan's charger violates our visual guidelines and poses risks." I stood, folder in hand. Per Arizona statutes, HOAs can't unreasonably prohibit EV chargers. Here's the law, word for word, and my permits. Her face cycled colors like a bad traffic light. "This is aggressive," she hissed, storming out. Neighbors murmured approval. Old Mr. Ellison from down the street winked. "Good for you, son. She's been throwing her weight around since her husband left." I should have known then. Humiliating a control freak like Victoria was like poking a hornet's nest. The real war was just beginning, and I was about to learn how deep her need for power really ran. The kids noticed the shift right away. Mia asked at dinner, "Dad, why was that lady yelling about our car?" Tyler just stared at his plate. I smiled and said everything was fine, But inside I felt that familiar knot, the one that says the fight isn't over, it's just getting started. Little did I know, Victoria was already sharpening her claws for round two. The next morning the doorbell rang before I'd even finished my coffee. Two city code inspectors stood there, clipboards in hand, looking apologetic. Someone reported a possible fire hazard on your property, Mr. Caldwell. Mind if we take a look? I let them in, heart pounding, knowing exactly who someone was. They poked around the charger for an hour, nodded, and left with everything checks out. But the message was clear. Victoria wasn't going to fight fair. Then the utility truck showed up 2 days later. Grid interference complaint, the lineman said, rolling his eyes. He took one look at my setup and laughed. This is like calling SWAT for a toaster. Still, the visit cost me half a day off work. I started noticing Victoria's Audi creeping past my house slower than a shark circling prey, phone up, snapping photos. Pretty soon the mailbox gossip mill kicked in. Martha Ellison told me at the community mailbox that Victoria was whispering to everyone that my charger was pumping out radiation, messing with Wi-Fi, and dropping property values. The Millers across the street suddenly wouldn't let their kids ride bikes past my driveway. At the Safeway one afternoon, Victoria cornered me by the cereal aisle, blocking my cart with hers. Ethan, sweetie, my mother-in-law has a medical condition. Needs her car charged for emergencies. Wouldn't it be a shame if the HOA found other violations at your place? The threat hung there naked among the Cheerios. I smiled the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Victoria, if you're so worried about community harmony, maybe stop using HOA meetings as your personal vendetta hour. She laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. We'll see who the real problem is. That night, I installed cameras, high def, every angle, motion triggered. I told the kids it was for home security. Mia rolled her eyes, but Tyler helped run the wires, whispering, "Dad, is that lady really trying to get us kicked out?" I lied and said no, but the fear in his voice cut deeper than any fine. The neighborhood that once felt like a fresh start now felt like a cage with Victoria holding the key. Small things started happening. The weatherproof cover on the charger was left dangling one morning. Another day the cable was moved just enough to look tampered. It was the kind of psychological game that makes you jump at shadows and check the footage at 2 a.m. Then came the Oscar-worthy performance. Victoria showed up at my door in tears, mascara running. My daughter's sick in Tucson. Car's dead. Just an hour on your charger. Against my better judgment, because I'm a dad and I get it, I said yes. But the cameras don't lie. She wasn't rushing to any hospital. She was poking around my setup, testing locks, memorizing every detail, then drove straight to the salon. The footage was gold, but I held it. Patience was my only weapon. The emotional toll was mounting. Sophie came home from school in tears one day. Kids said Dad's making everyone sick with his stupid car thing. Tyler stopped inviting friends over. I sat on the porch that night staring at the charger that was supposed to symbolize freedom, feeling the rage build slow and hot. Victoria wasn't just harassing me. She was poisoning my kids' lives in the one place we were supposed to feel safe. But every petty attack was another piece of evidence. I was done being the nice new guy. I was collecting receipts, and the queen of the cul-de-sac had no idea the walls were closing in. Late one night, Mr. Harlan Ellison, the sweet old guy 2 houses down whose wife used to handle HOA books, showed up at my back door with an envelope. Martha copied these before Victoria fired her. You need to see this. Inside were bank statements, fake landscaping invoices, and transfer records. Victoria had siphoned nearly $45,000 from HOA funds straight into her divorce lawyer and her sinking real estate consulting business. She'd turned our neighborhood dues into her personal piggy bank because her life was circling the drain. The twist hit like a live wire. This wasn't just a power trip. It was straight-up theft dressed up as community leadership. I sat at the kitchen table at 3 a.m., staring at the proof, heart hammering. The woman who'd spent months ruining my family's peace was the biggest rule breaker of all. I almost laughed, dark, bitter laughter, at the hypocrisy. Here she was fining me for saving the planet while padding her pockets with our money. The next morning, I started quietly showing the papers to a few trusted neighbors. The reactions ranged from shock to, I knew something was off. But Victoria smelled the shift. Her Audi started circling faster. Then the real sabotage began. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed, motion alert. I watched in night vision glory as Victoria, dressed all in black like a budget ninja, marched up my driveway with bolt cutters. The metallic snap of my charging cable being severed echoed through the footage. Live wires sparked. Not just vandalism, reckless endangerment. Officer Davis arrived at dawn, saw the video, and whistled. "This is felony damage. We'll bring her in for questioning." Victoria peeked out her window across the street, paranoia written all over her Botox face. But crazy has no floor. Even after the police visit, she couldn't stop. 3 nights later, the alarms blared again. This time she was dumping white paint straight into the replacement charger I'd rushed to install, killing it in slow motion while muttering to herself. I didn't wait. I called 911. Davis caught her red-handed. Literally, white paint splattered on her yoga pants, babbling nonsense as cuffs clicked. The neighborhood started turning. Whispers became open conversations at mailboxes. "She's been stealing from us?" All those fines went where? My kids breathed easier for the first time in months. Mia even hugged me after school. "Dad, people are saying you're the hero now." But I knew Victoria wasn't done. Narcissists don't quit when cornered. They double down until they explode. And I was ready with every frame of footage, every bank record, every sarcastic comeback I'd saved for the right moment. The Queen was about to learn what happens when the peasants revolt. The emergency HOA meeting was packed. 47 homeowners crammed into the community center, anger buzzing like a live power line. I sat in the front row with Mr. Harlan and a stack of printed evidence thick enough to stop a bullet. Victoria stormed in on bail, wild hair and wilder eyes, already shouting before the gavel even dropped. "This is a witch hunt. Ethan's the criminal here with his dangerous equipment." I let her rant for a minute, let the room hear how unhinged she sounded. Then I stood. "Victoria, since you love rules so much, let's talk about the $45,000 you siphoned from our dues for your personal lawyer and failing business." I passed out copies. Gasps rippled. Her face went sheet white. Officer Davis was there too, arms crossed. "We have video of you cutting the cable and dumping paint. Felony charges pending." She bolted from the podium, heels pounding, screaming conspiracies. The crowd chased her out the doors and straight toward my driveway, like a mob in a bad movie. Victoria made a beeline for my Tesla, eyes manic. "I'll prove this thing is dangerous." She grabbed the connector, ignoring the damage from her own paint job, and forced it into her Audi's port with a sickening crunch. Sparks flew. Paint fumes met live current. Then, boom. The explosion wasn't subtle. Flames roared out from under her SUV like a dragon waking up. The whole crowd froze in stunned silence as 60 grand worth of status symbol became a toxic bonfire. Fire trucks screamed in. Victoria stumbled back covered in soot, watching her car, her title, and her reputation melt into one big orange mess. It was the most poetic thing I've ever seen. Karma didn't just knock, it brought the whole fireworks factory. In the aftermath, justice moved fast. Victoria pled guilty to embezzlement, vandalism, and reckless endangerment. 10 grand restitution, permanent restraining order, lost her real estate license, and ended up renting a cramped apartment where the only power she controlled was the kind you pay the electric company for. Mr. Harlan got elected HOA president unanimously. We used the recovered money for community solar panels. Property values actually went up, not because of tighter rules, but because people finally learned to stand up to the bullies wearing the crowns. The only thing left toxic was the memory of the woman who tried to steal our power and burned herself instead. Makes you think, doesn't it? We hand these little HOAs the keys to our peace and then wonder why they turn into tyrants. Why do we wait for the fire before we say enough? Would you have stepped in sooner, or were we all guilty of looking the other way? That's my story, messy, ugly, but satisfying in the end. Drop your own HOA horror tales below. I'm not alone in this madness. The smoke finally cleared and the fire trucks rolled away, leaving a charred skeleton where Victoria's Audi used to sit. Neighbors stood in clusters whispering, phones out recording the aftermath like it was the best reality show they'd ever seen. I just leaned against my Tesla, still perfectly intact, and let the weight of the last 6 months slide off my shoulders for the first time. Mia and Tyler ran up from the sidewalk, eyes wide. Dad, did that just happen? Tyler asked, half laughing, half in shock. I ruffled his hair. Yeah, kiddo. Sometimes the bad guys write their own ending. Victoria was led away in cuffs again, soot-streaked face twisted in disbelief. The same woman who'd spent months terrorizing my family over a charger now looked like a dethroned dictator who finally met the revolution. Officer Davis gave me a nod as he passed. We'll need your footage for the full report, but this one's open and shut. The crowd started clapping, slow at first, then louder. Mr. Ellison shouted. 3 cheers for the guy who finally stood up. It felt surreal, like the whole cul-de-sac had woken up from the same bad dream. In the weeks that followed, the dust settled fast. Victoria's plea deal meant she paid back every stolen dollar plus fines that dwarfed anything she'd ever slapped on me. The court slapped her with a permanent ban from any HOA board in the state. Her real estate career? Toast. Last I heard, she was living in a 1-bedroom on the edge of town, driving a beater that actually needed gas. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. We held a special election and Mr. Harlan slid into the president's seat with 0 opposition. First order of business? Using the recovered funds for solar panels on the community center and a new EV charging station. Open to everyone, properly permitted, no drama. Property values ticked up because people finally felt safe speaking up instead of cowering behind rules. The lawns stayed green, the kids still rode bikes, but the fear was gone. Turns out real community harmony doesn't come from clipboards and threats. It comes from neighbors who actually have each other's backs. Sitting on my porch a month later watching Tyler charge his new e-bike on the community station, I couldn't help the dark little chuckle. Victoria thought she owned the power in Willow Creek. Turns out the only thing she ended up powering was her own spectacular downfall. The charger that started it all still hums away in my driveway. A quiet reminder that sometimes the smallest stand against a bully lights the biggest fire. And yeah, the universe has a wicked sense of humor. It doesn't just balance the scales. Sometimes it sets the whole damn thing ablaze, just so everyone can watch the show. So that's the story of how one legal EV charger turned a cookie-cutter suburb into a battlefield and back again. If you've got your own HOA Karen tale, drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if this gave you that sweet hit of justice, hit like, share, subscribe. Next time, maybe we'll talk about the pool Karen who thought she owned the water. Until then, keep your chargers plugged in and your cameras rolling. You never know who's creeping down the driveway at 2 a.m.